My son has 4 tiny houses he wants to bring who I was talking to.
Oh.
And so for the homeless and okay. Welcome to the Tuesday, January 17th, 2017 meeting of the Hot Springs Board of Directors. Tonight our invocation will be given by Drew Terry, because the one we have written down here is not here tonight. So we're going to have Ms. Drew to come and pray for us as we start tonight. Thank you for being here all the time.
Thank you.
Shall we stand?
Let us pray. Thank you, Lord, for such a new year. Thank you, Lord, that America was able to finish celebrating 3 wonderful holidays. Thanksgiving in November, giving thanks for so many blessings in a free nation. Then Christmas, a time when we celebrate you as Emmanuel, God with us, you showing us the way. Then only yesterday, Martin Luther King's mighty dream of equality and love for each other. Help us to live up to all 3 of these meaningful holidays as we begin this new year. In the Bible, I know there's a scripture that says that the government is on your shoulder. Help us acknowledge that we need you to govern every phase of our lives, whether in Washington, Little Rock, or Hot Springs, or wherever we are. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I hereby call this meeting to order. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Davidson.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Ramick.
Here.
Foley.
Here.
Carney.
Here. Okay. The first item of business is to approve the agenda. Directors, are there any additions, deletions, modifications to the agenda, including items, if any, to be removed from the consent agenda?
Mayor, I'll make a motion we approve the agenda as written.
Okay. Is there a second? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Okay, it is approved. The next item of business is to consider the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on December 6th, the special call meeting on December 12th, and the regular meeting held on December 20th. Are there any corrections, additions, deletions, or modifications to the minutes? Hearing none, I will, all in favor, please indicate a motion to accept them. Do we have that motion?
Yes.
Yes.
And second?
Second.
Okay, and all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please indicate by saying no. Okay, it is adopted. In an effort to afford each and everyone an orderly opportunity to address the items on tonight's agenda, I ask that all citizens and guests adhere to a 3-minute limit on your comments, and for your convenience, we will display a clock timer that goes off with a beep if you go too long. And out of respect for all of us, we ask that you honor our request. While members of the board may have questions of the speakers, I ask that the general comments be reserved for the board discussion after the speakers have all been heard. As a reminder, would everyone please speak into their microphone so that everyone can hear you, that it's on television tonight, and also state your name and address. We also ask that all cell phones be silenced during the meeting. Please refrain from any disruptions of the meeting. And should you need to leave prior to the conclusion of the meeting, we ask that you do so quietly. And thank all of you. There's not a whole lot of you here tonight, but I thank all of you for being here. We appreciate your interest in our city and the business of our city, and we thank you for coming. At this time, we have some guests, and I do not see Melissa Glenn here, and she is receiving a proclamation. So maybe she's opening the door. No, she's not. Okay, we'll wait on that proclamation. This is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and I know that maybe some of you saw the article on the front page of the paper. Melissa does a great job of just bringing awareness. She speaks at different groups, clubs, schools, OCC for kids. We have a program in the jail system for juveniles and also for people who are at risk kids. So she is very, very busy with the human trafficking awareness that we need in our city. So she'll be here. I'm sure she'll be here. Maybe someone wants to text her, and we will see. But we have some other people from the task force here tonight. We thank you for coming. We also have Dan Bugg, who has a presentation to make. Would you please come forward, Mr. Bugg?
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Directors. It's kind of a special event that I get to come here. I don't get here very often, as you well know. You don't see me very often. But to me, cultivating partnerships is a very formidable or vital method of involving citizens for their input in their efforts, finding a common ground, a common concern, or a worthwhile objective, to improve outcomes. This evening, I wish to share with you a very special person, Mrs. Joanne Linehan, who sits behind me in the blue shirt. She finds her way to us through her care and concern for animals and to those who undertake the daily burden of finding improved outcomes for animals. That's which is the staff at Animal Services. Mrs. Joe has been involved in the shelter for many years, coming each Friday to take pictures of animals being placed for adoption. She then goes home and places pictures she has taken onto the online pet forum called Pet Finder, giving each pet a special name and detailed description for folks to see, as a method to contact the shelter also to arrange for an adoption of the animals they do see. She does the same thing with our pets for the local newspaper each month, submitting pictures, names, and descriptions of animals awaiting adoption. Beyond this, Mrs. Joe has submitted applications to her employer, which is Weyerhaeuser, on at least 3 different occasions for WAVES grants for the shelter. The shelter has been most fortunate to have received each grant she has applied for. Mrs. Joe also serves as a new member to the Animal Control Advisory Committee. Any way you look at it, any measure that you could take of it, of this person and her efforts and her actions can only be observed as a person who has an immense care and concern for animals, and specifically for seeing improved outcomes for those animals. I have an award that we've developed, staff and I have developed, and this is the first time we've given it out. We're going to keep giving it out each year, but we've named it the Joe Award.
Oh, wow.
And this award is named after her and her heart. There will be other recipients for this award in coming years, but it'll always be known as the Joe Award because she sets the standard. Joe?
Oh, wow. Of the board and behind here.
That's great.
Wow.
That thing's heavy. Don't drop it on your foot.
I thought he was giving. Oh yeah, I thought he was giving a presentation on something. I'm very touched. Very touched. But it's the most rewarding thing I do. Really. Well, we appreciate that. It sounds awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Bugg, for all your work with the animal control. We appreciate you. I know it's a 24/7 thing, so we appreciate you for doing that. Okay, we will now hear our city manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate that. So I want to start tonight with a little update on the airport. The new airline, Southern Airways, will begin service on the 27th of February. Initially, they're going to have 2 flights to Dallas-Fort Worth. And then on the 1st of April, they'll begin 3 flights. And we don't have times yet, but when the 3 flights are in place, my understanding is there'll be a morning, a midday, and an evening flight to Dallas. Also, Friday, January 20th, is the application deadline for the next Hot Springs Police Department, Garland County Sheriff's Office Citizens Police Academy. If you're interested in learning more about behind-the-scenes operations, what law enforcement really does in our community, and how you can play an important role in making the community safer, please apply at hotspringspolice.com. If you want to tase your neighbor or your best friend, that's another subject. No, I'm just kidding. They didn't have those when I was in law enforcement. We had a spray can of irritating stuff that didn't work very well, so they've come a long way.
They had it when I was in the academy.
Did you go through the Citizens Academy?
I did.
There you
I
go.
did.
So that's always it's just really a great way to get an inside look at policing has gotten much, much more challenging in the last 2 decades. And
They actually taught my group how to make meth.
there you go. Well,
Not a good thing.
that's another subject. So anyway, classes are free of charge Thursday night from February 9th until April 6th. So we urge folks to come out and participate in our Citizens Police Academy. Also, I want to make mention, I know most of you probably saw this in the paper, but Police Chief Stacey was presented with a life membership certificate to the NAACP by Elmer Beard, long-term leader in our African-American community this weekend at the Martin Luther King Jr. prayer breakfast on Saturday. Chief Stacey was honored for his continued efforts to promote social justice, mutual cooperation, and respect within the city of Hot Springs. So congratulations to the chief. Also, the City of Hot Springs will accept applications until 5 p.m. on Friday, February 10th, for a total of 9 volunteer positions on various city advisory boards and commissions. These include arts, transportation, community development, and urban forestry. And also, there's an opening on the Historic District Commission. Applications are available online at cityhs.net or at the city clerk's office. Also, Chief Stacey, there was some questions recently about, and I know this always comes up when there's annexation of enclaves in particular, about whether it will strain city services. And so there were some calls I received today based on some radio program this morning about call volumes in the enclave areas, C and D. So I have an estimate that our police department put together from information they gathered from the sheriff's office. And based on the annexation areas, both C and D combined, the city last year received, out of the 35,000 calls for service we normally received last year, the sheriff in those areas combined received 269 calls. So that's approximately 0.73 calls per day of additional service load on the department. So I wanted the board to have that information. And then Majestic Environmental Assessment, our partners at the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality are in the final stages of reviewing the statement of work for Phase 2 assessment. We've been informed that the environmental contractor will be given the okay to start on the work plan by week's end. All of this work is being performed at no cost to the city as part of our enrollment in the Targeted Brownfield Assessment Program through ADEQ and EPA. So, let's see. Also, the city, I know there's been some question about our participation in chamber dinners and things like that. We're going to work on a policy. The city attorney and I are going to work on that together later this month. But for this week, we have a chamber annual dinner on Thursday evening, and the city does have a table for that event. So I encourage board members who are interested and have the time to go that you're welcome to participate in that dinner. I will be out of town Thursday and Friday. Deputy City Manager Bill Burrow will be acting as city manager in my absence for those 2 days. So I'll miss you at the chamber dinner, but I also want to congratulate Director Elaine Jones for being nominated for Woman of the Year. Probably overdue in my opinion, but I'm glad it's there. And also our Deputy City Manager Bill Burrow was nominated for Man of the Year, and I want to congratulate you, Bill, on that achievement.
How much?
And Mayor, I think that's all I have.
All right. Do we have any comments from the Board of Directors regarding upcoming events? Yes, sir.
Mayor, I don't have an upcoming event, but it's an event that happens every board meeting that I want to acknowledge. Ms. Drew Terry is here for us every board meeting, and the Women of Prayer, and she always asks for divine guidance for us, and we certainly need it. So, Ms. Terry, thank you so much for everything you do and being here with us. We appreciate it, and we love you. Thank you.
And it has been 20 years? Has it been 20 yet that she's been here at every board meeting? That's amazing. Yeah, somebody should elect her
You're lying.
a director or something. I mean, you should be official. Thank you for coming. I just got a text from Melissa. She's 20 minutes away, and she works in Little Rock, so there's no telling what's in between here and there. So we'll wait toward the end and do the proclamation for Human Trafficking Task Force. Okay. The next item of business is consideration of the consent agenda. Items in this section are of a routine nature and will be considered as one item of business without discussion. I will now entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I move for the adoption of the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And would you please call the roll?
Yes. Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Ramick.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
It is adopted.
It is adopted. And the next item of business is to consider resolution number R1702. Council, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R17-2, a resolution awarding a contract to RJN Group for certain professional services related to the Davidson Drive Wastewater Treatment Facility Headworks and Ultraviolet System Improvements Project. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And discussion from Mr. Carnahan. Welcome.
Good evening. How are you all tonight? And this is a big request, but it's a big, significant project in our city's efforts to meet our consent administrative order, reduce overflows in the system, and improve our wastewater system. We have spent a lot of money working in the collection and pumping of the wastewater to the treatment plant, and now we need to make some significant improvements at the plant itself. And those include changing out our old chlorination system into a new ultraviolet disinfection system. And where we have these new pipes that we see, the large pipes we've been laying all across the city, where they come to the plant now, we have this new 48-inch pipe combined with the other pipes that are already coming to the plant that we need to collect together into a new headworks with new bar screens and grit chambers, metering, and being able to divert the flow in heavy rainfall into our detention basin and then recycle it back at the plant in a metered way so that it doesn't overload the plant. It's all needs to be automated. It's complicated and large. And so altogether, those projects, we're asking you tonight to approve a design build contract with RJN Company for $8 million. Let me say this is a design build maximum amount not to exceed $8,980,375. We're using a design build approach rather than going out for public bids on the individual components, partially because the equipment in this renovation have up to 5-6 month lead time in ordering and delivering to the job site. So if we wait until, for instance, every little piece of rebar is sized and dimensioned on the plans before we ever put the plans out for bid, we have to wait until that bid was brought in, award a contract, ask for shop drawings from the contractor before we could ever order the equipment. With a design build approach, we have already done a 30% design level, and so we know what equipment we need, and we can order the equipment and then design the concrete basin to fit that piece of equipment that we ordered, and we can save at least 6 to 8 months of construction time. So that's why we're so excited about this proposal to you. I hope you saw last Tuesday night the presentation from RJN Company and from Larry Merriman with all the work that we've done so far. So I hope that was enough information to help you feel comfortable with approving this contract tonight.
Okay.
Are all the contractors bonded for performance?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Carnahan, do we have this within our budget?
We do. It's part of a $40 million bond that we issued for the consent administrative order work. And after awarding this contract, we will have spent that bond down. We have to spend this bond and complete this work by 2018. So when we award this contract, we'll only have about $3 million left of that $40 million that we'll decide how to use.
So we've met all the requirements then of the, for the EPA and.
Yes, sir. Every year we submit a report and we make a visit to our local ADEQ office in Little Rock and to the regional EPA office in Dallas, Texas, and we show them what we've done so far, what projects we're planning to do in the future, and the any data that we have to show, for instance, that we've had a reduction in infiltration into our system. The last time we had a 21% reduction in the watershed that we studied. So they've been very happy with that, and we've eliminated the 21 overflows that we had that were in the part of the consent administrative order. So we'll see going forward how that all plays out, but they're very pleased with the progress that we've made.
Good job. Thank you.
And a lot of people have worked hard on that. Larry Merriman's been our major project, and Monty Ledbetter, our new utilities director, he's stepped right in and has done a super job, and all of his staff. So it took a lot of people, a lot of great consultants that have helped us get through this.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Carnahan? Okay. Hearing no further discussion, would you please call the roll?
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Ramick.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
It is adopted.
It is adopted. The next item of business is to consider Resolution R-1703. Council, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R-17-3, a resolution approving a bid to Jack Tyler Engineering, Inc. for natural gas-powered backup wastewater pumps for stations 1 through 4. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and Mr. Carnahan.
Thank you again. This is a smaller contract, but just as strategic. Because this provides a backup to 4 of our main pump stations so that if in the event of a power outage, equipment failure, whatever, rather than just having a backup generator, our new strategy is to have these natural gas-powered pumps in line, ready to go, and once a month we operate them to make sure that they're ready to go and operating well. We have a management program. But these pumps have the capacity to pump the entire flow around the plant like a bypass pump, and they're permanently installed in line. And we're able to, we bid these out, we were able to get a good buy of 4 pumps for $236,000 from Jack Tyler Engineering, Inc. So we'd like to ask you to approve the award of this contract so we can purchase those bypass pumps.
Okay. We don't have anyone signed up for any of these, so it'll just be board discussion. Do you have any questions about this item?
Well, having lived through power failures in 2000 that did affect our water and sewer system, I think this is very prudent action on our part.
Okay.
Good deal.
Any other comments? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Ramick.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
It is adopted.
It is adopted. Thank you, Mr. Carnahan. Okay, the next item of business is to consider resolution number R-1704. Council, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R-17-4, a resolution approving the application extending occupancy of a temporary emergency dwelling unit at 314 Woodmere Street pursuant to ordinance number 4948. That concludes your reading. If you would, entertain a motion to second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt?
I so move.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Miss, what is your name?
My name is Kathy Selman. I'm the Planning and Development Director.
Uh-oh.
One of those moments. You know, as I know you. Okay. There you go. You're on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. This is a request from Mr. Jeffrey Davis, property owner, who is seeking to extend permission that you granted approximately a year ago initially to occupy an RV at the site of his home building project. It's at 314 Woodmere Street in Board District 1. He is constructing a new home on a vacant lot. He obtained a building permit, but there is no on-site structure that is habitable there at this time. Mr. Davis chose a lot in a nice established neighborhood and one of our northern neighborhoods, and has said how beautiful that lot is, and it is. He has taken a lot that was overgrown and unmaintained and established his temporary emergency or extraordinary circumstances RV there. He has maintained it. We've had no complaints about his occupancy during that period of time. However, it hasn't resulted yet in the construction of a home. So he is asking to establish, to have your permission to continue to reside there. And he came in today and presented a letter that was signed by all of his neighbors, expressing their support for his continued occupancy there, and also provided some pictures of progress on the clearing of the lot, which he is doing by himself and pretty much by hand, or when he can borrow equipment to do so. So he is here tonight and has additional information that he would like to present to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis?
How are y'all this evening?
Good.
My name's Jeff Davis, and I live at 314 Woodmere. And I work 5 to 6 days a week. I work for a plumbing company, so I'm on call every other weekend. So I have limited time. That picture, I wanted to show you all these pictures. The picture on the right is the top where I have leveled. The picture on the left is all the concrete that was on top that I pushed down and leveled out that top. So what I'm wanting to do, my house, the back of my house is going to be right at the edge of that concrete. And I want to be able to backfill that and level out where I'll have a backyard. Because my back porch is going to be right there at the edge of that concrete. So I'm wanting to backfill, before I put a house there, I want to backfill that where I'll have, I don't step off my back porch into Neverland. As you can see in the back, I've cut a road that goes all the way, I own all the way to that back street. And there's a road on the left that goes around to the next street, and I've cleared all that off, mainly by hand. But I've got, I really want to get this concrete that was piled up there when I first bought this property. I want to get that covered up with some field dirt where I can grow some grass on it and have a backyard. So that's what I'm working on. And that was all, both those pictures, 5 and 6, that was all completely grown up. And I had to cut a bunch of trees by hand, and I cleared all that off. Right there at the front of that van on picture number 8 is right where the back of my house, I want the back of my house to be. Which shows you that I need to backfill all that concrete to try to level off. I want to taper it off where I'll have a backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mr. Davis, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
I just, I'm not a contractor, but I've worked in cities where slope hazards and stabilized slopes become a big problem for construction.
Yes.
And I haven't been in Arkansas long enough to know if that's a huge problem here, although there's evidence of it when you go down Central and you look at some of the hotels and the slopes there. You mentioned you wanted to put your house right at the top of that tow line where the concrete was, and I'm only going to suggest to you that you it's not just a grassy level slope you would need. You need a stabilized.
Right.
slope.
I'm going to have a footer dug you know,
Okay.
I'm going to
Well,
dig
I
a
would
foot.
give myself a little wiggle room there, just in case.
Right.
We
Yes,
don't want
sir.
your beautiful new home.
I am going to come back a little ways from a little ways, but I also want to put a deck back there where I can, and some stairs to where I can walk out to a backyard and, a fenced backyard eventually. Those two pictures are the field dirt that I'm bringing in to cover that concrete. Some good dirt to be able to grow grass on. That picture on the left is the road, the road that I've cut that goes down the left-hand side of the property to the back side of the property. And that's just showing the field dirt that I brought in. It's really, and that's just some of the clearing I've done. That's looking back up towards the top of the property right there. And I think all that's been cleared by now. It's a little bit clearer than that. I have been working on this. I work for a plumbing company, and I'm on call. And I talked to my boss today and told him about having to do all this. And he said, well, how about if I just give you some weekends off so you can work on your property? And I said, that would be really great. So he's going to give me some weekends off where I can make some more progress than I've made.
That sounds good. And if, we'll bring this before and go ahead and have a vote and see what we can get done. Maybe there's some people around town also that could give you some structural information too.
Yes, ma'am. Mike Scott, he is he sat down with me when I gave him my building plan, and he said, Jeff, I want you to know that I am here for you. If you have any questions whatsoever, I work for you. If you ever have a question, and he gave me everybody's card, he said, if you have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to call us, and we will be more than glad to come out and help you.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, we appreciate you being here.
Okay, thank y'all very, very much.
Do you have any other questions from Mr.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Yeah, okay.
And Mr. Davis, you're asking for 90 days, is that correct?
Well, I was hoping for 6 months, but I mean, if at all possible, another 6 months.
Okay, can you have the project completed in 90 days or 6 months, or will you be coming back to us again and asking for another 6 months?
I don't see me being able to have a house built in 3 months or 6 months completed.
Okay.
Now, I can see me having a good start at it. A footer dug and a house started at least. Mm-hmm. Some major progress made.
But in 6 months, you're still going to want the
Probably
travel trailer there.
Probably a little bit, until I can complete it. But I will have some
How long is
progress.
it going to take you to complete it?
Well, I'm doing this by myself.
Yes, sir. I understand, and we're sympathetic to your request, but we just like to have a timeline on how long it's actually going to take before you can occupy a habitat there.
Yes, this is my first endeavor at building a house. I have to be honest with you, and I'm winging it. To be honest with you, I'm taking everybody's advice, from the city, like Mike Scott and everybody, and I want to do it right the first time. I don't want to, have to, do something and then come back and redo it. So I want to do it right the first time.
Okay. Well, my question is how long is it going to take you? I mean, are we going to have to come back with this every 6 months for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years?
I should hope not.
Then can you give us a timeline on when you're going to complete this project? Or are we just supposed to kind of hang on and wait until you get to the point where you can do it? I'd like to see you complete the project, and move to a wonderful home, and have a nice deck, a nice backyard.
Yes, sir.
But you know, how long are we going to have to give you more time?
I would say a year, and I would have a dwelling.
Okay, so you'll commit to a year then tonight.
Yes, sir, I will.
Kathy, is there a requirement that we do every 90 days or 6 months or?
Oh, excuse me. Mr. Davis. The code is very specific about the first request being 6 months, but it appears to be less specific, maybe open-ended, on the request for an extension. So possibly our city attorney would have an opinion there.
Code section 16-1-8.2 states that any extension beyond 6 months shall constitute a new and separate application. He's had 2 6-month extensions. So what you do after the first 6 months, you could have it more open-ended. I'd like to try to focus the board's attention down to what this really is. This isn't about the project. The project has an open permit. Excavation work is being done. Mr. Scott, Ms. Selman, everyone in planning and development will assist in the project. The request is to have a temporary occupancy of a travel trailer there. The provisions of the code state that in the event an otherwise lawfully existing structure is rendered uninhabitable or unusable due to an emergency or extraordinary circumstances, the owner or lessee may make application for the placement and occupancy of a temporary structure on the premises. It's my understanding that Mr. Davis bought the lot without a structure on it. So this isn't a situation where occupying a structure, there's a tornado, there's a fire, there's something of an emergency nature that renders it uninhabitable, and so a request is being made. This was a vacant lot, grown up. He's making very good use of the property. This is exactly the kind of thing that we all should want to happen, infill within the city, and so anything that we can do to try to assist him in the development of his project should be applauded. But the request is to have a temporary dwelling there. Has really nothing to do with the project.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Davis, this is in my district, District 1.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have not driven up Woodmere Street. It's off Whittington, just before you get to the alligator farm. And it's at the last cross street. But I mean, are you beyond, you're on Woodmere, and you're at the end of the street, right?
It's about middle ways. It's St. George.
Right.
Right there
I
at
see
the corner
that.
of St. George and
Okay. Habitat for Humanity has been very active in that area recently, building houses. Had you considered approaching Habitat? The problem with Habitat is you have to put in a considerable amount of sweat equity. But the houses, meaning you participate in the building, but the houses, you can apply through them, and very often houses are built for people much like your situation. They're modest homes, but there's several in that community, and the Habitat for Humanity program is on, what's that street? Hobson. It's in a house. Get with me afterward, and I'll try to get a number for you, or get your number and call you.
Okay.
That might be a solution for you.
That sounds great to me.
I mean, you could build a deck, but they can help you build a house.
That sounds great to me.
If he's qualified.
Best thing I've heard all that.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Mr.
Am I understanding you that we have to do this in 6-month intervals?
No, sir.
We could do a longer period?
Initially, it's 6 months. After that, the code is relatively open.
I would like to amend this, since he stated it'll take him a year, so he doesn't have to come back in 6 months, to give him an additional year to do this project.
Making a motion?
I am.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. This is amendment to the request that we have here. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Okay, we have amended the resolution. And you want to have any other discussion, or shall we go ahead? Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, just important for everybody to understand that the building permit expired, so he's going to have to,
Yes.
he or Habitat or whoever is going to build a house there is going to have to reapply for a new
Yeah,
new
I've
permit.
already talking to,
Okay. Right.
I've already talked to
Yeah.
him about it.
I was just in Georgia, and we have a friend there that has bought one of the houses. Like, we are condemning if it's at all good, and having to move. Sometimes that works, and you can just work on. I don't know. We have any houses around here that are being moved, or somebody wants to give away a house. That happens in some places. So they just had it moved, which is a lot cheaper than, building. So I don't know. There's probably some options out there. We don't know.
I have a question for the committee. You see those houses, they're prefabbed houses. They're not mobile homes, but they're houses.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at one, and it was already wired. And, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, say, it's a little bit smaller than my building plan, but is there a problem with moving one of those and making it a dwelling?
You're good.
Mayor, I don't think
Yeah.
you want to give policy
About that?
No, we're
direction and
Okay,
advice
okay,
on the floor.
okay.
Staff will be happy to help you answer those questions, though.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Ms.
sorry.
Selmican. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very
And
much.
so we will vote now on the amended.
Can I just ask one
yes.
question? When this was first approached, the request for residents was based on, number one, convenience to the construction site, and two, safety of the tools that were going to be used for this. At what point in the construction process do you believe that you don't have to live on the property to maintain the safety or the security of your tools? I thought that was one of the reasons that you wanted to live on the property, so you could actually oversee the use of the tools.
Yes, sir. it
Make
is.
sure they didn't disappear on you.
Correct.
And
Bill.
materials.
Correct.
At what point in the construction do you believe that that will no longer be a reason for you to occupy that property in the trailer?
Mr. Foley, are you talking about beyond 1 year or not
At any time.
at any time? Well, I think since we just now passed this to give him a year, that would probably.
You haven't passed, I think that's
I mean,
why he's
yeah,
asking.
okay, you're asking about, we passed it,
You amended it.
amended.
Was my question clear, sir?
Not really. Well, sometimes I do borrow the company's equipment sometimes that I park there. I do have some, hand equipment of my own that I need. I would like to be there to make sure it doesn't disappear.
So does your structure have to be totally complete before you feel comfortable in getting the trailer off of there?
I'm sorry, sir.
I said, so does your structure have to be totally completed for you to feel comfortable in getting your trailer off of the site?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So what equipment are you talking about, equipment and tools are you talking about that you're concerned about?
Hand tools, saws, all kinds of building equipment. Drills, cordless drills, everything.
Where do you keep those now, in the trailer?
I keep them in a trailer locked up. I have some of them underneath the trailer in a lock box, a locked toolbox. But this is a pretty safe neighborhood. I haven't had anything come up missing.
Okay.
And that's one reason I really do like that neighborhood.
Okay, we have an amended item, resolution. You want to state what we've just done, council?
Sure. Resolution R1704 as presented originally in the motion was for 90 days. That has been amended to be 1 year from today's date. And so that's what's on the floor now
Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt?
Yes, ma'am.
You ready? Kathy?
You've
We already
you've
did that
got
one. Okay.
Call the roll.
We have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Williams,
Aye.
Ramick,
Aye.
Folly,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones, Clark,
Aye.
Carney.
Aye. It is adopted. Okay, thank you. Our next items of business is to consider resolution number R1705 through 13, which are condemnations of property. Council, would you please proceed?
Mayor, your first item is to consider resolution number R1705, a resolution condemning certain real property at 105 Mark Street. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion.
Do we have a motion and a second?
Second.
Mr. Scott?
I'd like to make a little statement before I start, please. Thank you. Tonight, we bring 9 proposed condemnations for your consideration. Each one is vacant, a nuisance property, and owner notice has been provided by multiple means. Where an owner cannot be identified or located, an attorney ad litem was engaged to ensure that all necessary legal means were exhausted. Condemnation and demolition are the last resort option to resolve a quality of life problem. By the time a condemnation request reaches the Board of Directors, many efforts to resolve the nuisance have been made and tried without success. A few instances were caused by fire tonight, others by owner neglect, whether unintentional or intentional. In ideal circumstances, the resulting vacant lot is redeveloped. Sometimes an adjacent owner takes it over as a yard addition. Another example, Habitat for Humanity may acquire the lot for new housing construction. So now we'll start with 105 Fraser. 105 Fraser, the owners are deceased. We hired an attorney ad litem to make sure.
Mark. Is that Mark or Fraser?
I'm sorry, 105 Mark.
Okay.
We've already done Fraser like a long time ago.
Okay.
Sorry, I get my houses mixed up.
Maybe you're
Some of us
looking at
have
Mr.
those
Fraser and
moments.
it's like,
I guess that's what it is. So,
You're welcome.
okay. Anyway, we hired an attorney ad litem on this one. The owners were deceased to make sure there were not any heirs to the property. The current property is wide open. The floor is rotten. The overhang is rotten. The roof decking is rotten. It's pretty much, it's going to collapse on itself within a couple of years. Are there any questions?
seen enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyone here to speak in opposition of resolution R1705, a resolution condemning certain real property at 105 Mark Street? 105 Mark Street. Hearing none, Mayor, if you would call the roll.
Would you please call the roll?
Ramick,
Aye.
Folly,
Aye.
Davidson,
Oops. Okay.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Carney.
Aye. It is adopted.
Mayor, next item is to consider resolution R1706, a resolution condemning certain real property at 107 Westbrook Street. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion.
Do I have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Mr. Scott?
The owners are deceased at this property as well. Attorney ad litem was hired. Parts of the roof leak. The floor is rotten. Wall finishes are coming loose. There's trash all throughout the house. People are vagrants living there. And the porch is also rotten and caving in.
Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I want to have a question about that. Is that one, I mean, it's a cute little house. Is it just nasty on the inside? Is
No,
it
I'll tell you,
salvageable?
I need a drone so I can take pictures of the roof.
Yeah.
Because it's a 2-story, and right there I'm
Yeah,
standing
I
on a
see it.
bank behind it, and I still couldn't get the good shot
Yeah.
of the roof. But on the inside, if you'll look, there was one picture that showed where rain is coming in, and it's that one, and it just doesn't do it justice. It's a little brick area where there was a wood stove there. It's about to
Yeah.
fall over currently right now.
Okay.
We had to cut a tree last year in the front yard because if it was falling on the neighbor's house. So we already had to do that, and we've been mowing this property for multiple years.
Wow.
So.
Okay.
What if we could salvage that sofa?
I know. There's a couple of books in there too that I thought we might.
It rained on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions or comments in light of the discussion? Anyone here to speak in opposition of resolution R1706, a resolution condemning certain real property at 107 Westbrook Street? 107 Westbrook Street. Hearing none, Mayor, if you would call
Would
the
you
roll.
call the roll, please?
Yes. Folly,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Ramick,
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
It is adopted.
Mayor, your next item is to consider Resolution R-17-7, a resolution condemning certain real property at 109 Barrett Street. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
So moved.
And a second. Okay.
Mr. Scott.
109 Barrett, owners are deceased. Again, we hired an attorney ad litem. The roof is rotten, the foundation's rotten, it's overgrown. This is probably one of the last original log houses in Hot Springs, as you can see right there. So I can't tell you how many times I drove by this property and never saw it. And then wintertime came, and I just happened to be on the road at the right time. Now you can see it. It's that overgrown. Summertime, you'll never see this
Barrett
house.
Street.
I think mine doesn't. How do you make it bigger?
Oh,
Barrett.
Is it that one?
where's Barrett, Mike?
12%.
It's kind of over close by Cypress and Wall Street. It's on back, and then there's Clara, and then there's Barrett.
Okay, yeah.
Barrett, yeah, it's kind of right down through there.
In my district.
Any other questions or comments?
There you go. Sorry.
And
Gotcha.
in mine, too.
Anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R-17-7, a resolution condemning certain real property at 109 Barrett Street? 109 Barrett Street.
Now, how do I scroll that down, Lance?
Hearing none, Mayor, if you would call the roll.
Yeah, would you please call the roll? Ooh.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Ramick,
Aye.
Folly,
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Next agenda item is 14. Consider resolution number R-1708, resolution condemning certain real property at 203 Pansy Street. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a
Second.
second?
Mr. Scott.
203 Pansy. We had to hire an attorney ad litem on this. We could not find the owners. I believe we've been mowing this property for years. The roof is rotten on it, and you can see part of it's breaking, collapsing. The foundation is rotten on it, and the siding is rotten on it and coming loose.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Scott, you said we've been mowing this property
Yes,
for years.
correct.
When we demolish this house and raise it, will we still be mowing the property?
Well, at that point, we're hoping eventually taxes will take it over and somebody will buy it.
Okay.
Because many of these properties are delinquent on taxes too, because we can't find the owners. And because we
Okay,
wish
thank
they
you.
would pay the taxes, we could find them then. So.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, in as much as he said that, once they're delinquent for a year, they're certified to the state land commissioner for 2 years,
Right.
and then the state land commissioner can sell it at a public auction.
Right.
Nice bird feeder.
That's what happens to many of these properties.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Go.
Hearing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R-17-8, a resolution condemning certain real property at 203 Pansy Street? 203 Pansy Street. Hearing none, Mayor, if you would call the roll.
Would you please call the roll?
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Ramick,
Aye.
Folly,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
It's adopted.
It is
Mayor, your
adopted.
next agenda item is 15, to consider Resolution R-17-9, a resolution condemning certain real property at 217 Rosewall Street. If you would,
Rosewall.
entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if
Do
any.
Bear, Rose. Okay, Rosewall I see it. Yes. Motion
So moved.
Second.
in a second.
Mr. Scott.
217 Rosewall, the owner signed a demo waiver to have the place demolished. It qualifies for CDBG loan forgiveness program. The floor is rotten, it's trash, windows broken, siding coming off. His relatives actually called myself and the police, and we went there, and we found another place for him to live so we could get him out of there. He didn't want to leave. So, but it was not a habitable place to live.
Someone was living there?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, no.
Okay. Do we
Any
have
other questions or comments? Hearing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R-17-9, a resolution condemning certain real property at 217 Rosewall Street? 217 Rosewall Street. Hearing none, Mayor, if you would call the roll.
Would you please call the roll?
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Ramick,
Aye.
Folly,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
It is adopted.
Mayor, your next agenda item is to consider Resolution R-17-10, a resolution condemning certain real property at 515 Detroit Street. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
A motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Scott.
Yeah.
515 Detroit, we had to hire an attorney ad litem. This house here has collapsed. The roof is collapsed all on it and stuff. It's been open for quite some time also. but it's,
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R-1710, a resolution condemning certain real property at 515 Detroit Street? 515 Detroit Street. Hearing none, Mayor, if you would call the roll.
Please call the roll.
Williams.
Aye.
Ramick.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye. It is adopted.
Mayor, your next item is to consider Resolution R-1711, a resolution condemning certain real property at 600 Crescent Street. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do we have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Mr. Scott.
600 Crescent, owner signed a demo waiver. The roof is rotten and leaking. Exterior is also rotting. This has been a nuisance property for the police in the past.
Is it burned?
No. It looks like it had a burnt for a little while, and then somebody put this temporary roofing material on it, but that's why it's kind of charred in places and burnt and some rotten.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R-1711, a resolution condemning certain real property at 600 Crescent Street? 600 Crescent Street. Hearing none, Mayor, if you would please call the roll.
Call the roll.
Ramick.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye. It is adopted.
Next item is to consider Resolution R-1712, a resolution condemning certain real property at 502 Beard Street. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion.
502 Beard Street.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Get a
Getting ahead of
motion.
myself.
Motion from Jones.
Second. Okay. Thank you.
Getting a little ahead of myself, sorry. 502 Beard Street, the owner could not be located. This structure burnt, and there's all that was left, so we had to tear it down immediately. We have the police helping us try to locate the person. So,
You were not able to locate them. Did you?
no, we
Did you
didn't.
employ an attorney at Latham to
Not yet,
perfect
we hadn't,
service?
because we just immediately tore it down. So, because it's in the middle of a neighborhood and kids everywhere. And it looked like you could knock one board out and the rest of it would come down.
Is this the current condition?
We know who the owner is, and police are also looking for him.
Is this the current condition of the property?
No,
Current,
it's
flip,
gone.
there you go. There's the
There's
current
the
condition.
Looks better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looked good.
Okay.
What are you thinking, Brian?
Police are
I would ask that this be tabled by the board, please.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Okay.
Next item is to consider Resolution R-1713, a resolution condemning certain real property at 1022 Spring Street. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion.
So moved.
A second? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
This also, this structure here was collapsing. We got a hold of the owner. The owner agreed to let us take it down immediately because the roof on it was collapsing. It was like 20 feet from another house. Kids were playing in the backyard. This structure was so bad that I was afraid it was going to collapse on part of that property that was in that other house. Because actually the back of this house is the other house behind its property line. This house was built on the property line.
Oh, wow.
So, there's a structure just out of sight to the left right there at that tree. So, but the owner's out of state, and it needed to be tore down immediately. He agreed to let us tear it down. We told him it would have a lien on it, and he said, okay, he'd just pay the lien on it. So,
Any comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R-1713, a resolution condemning certain real property at 1022 Spring Street? 1022 Spring Street.
Okay.
Hearing none, please call the roll.
Please call the roll.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Ramick.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye. It is adopted. Okay.
Can I ask one question? Sorry, Mike, I should have done the center. Because I spend too much time watching HGTV and Barnwood Builders. The one that's the log cabin, do we do anything to try to reclaim that, or does somebody
even the
recycle?
logs are rotting on it.
Purpose?
Yeah, because I went
Okay.
up there and checked, because I'm kind of interested in
Yeah,
that kind of
okay.
stuff too myself. So.
Yeah.
But the logs were so rotten, they weren't worth saving.
Okay.
Director
thanks.
Clark, that prompted me to think too. I'm going to be talking to staff about whether there might be some possibility of the city intervening sooner on some of these properties, because I think you can see from the pictures that it just occurs to me that the city is exceedingly tolerant and patient on these things, and early intervention might at least, in many of these cases, these are determined condemnees, shall we say, and they're not going to be dissuaded. But I think if we acted a little bit earlier in some of these cases, there might at least be some salvage value left in the lumber, because some of these are really, really past even a place where they should be condemned. So we're going to be seeing about how maybe if we can intervene a little bit sooner in the process, we might get there.
Thank you.
But I'm thinking, would you clarify that too? Some of these you've had several years in the process just because you can't find owners.
Well, I mean,
or not.
that usually takes about a 3-month process when we can't find somebody. But a big problem is these are vacant structures, and nobody lives in them, and they go unnoticed because they're fine, and then they eventually just get so bad, then they become on our radar, and we start having to check into them, look at it, and then we realize there's not an owner for the house. They've been deceased for quite some time.
Wow. Okay.
Some of the process that we have is due to lack of funding by the board for these projects. So we haven't given them the staff. We've now just for the last 2 years given them the money to demolish the building. So and they've done a nice job in getting rid of a lot of them.
Yeah.
There just is a lot more to do. So it's going to take a commitment from the board to fund that.
And that brings up another issue that I know you're familiar with from going to AML last week, but the millions of dollars of tax revenue that is generated, county tax revenue that's generated in the city that isn't currently shared with our city, the total of that is approaching $200 million during the time in which that money has not been coming to you. So when people say things to me like, I wish you could do this kind of program or that kind of program, or why can't we be more like Fayetteville or Benton or someplace that has some of these tools, we don't have those same tools. And that is just one example of if we had that kind of revenue and we could put that into housing, repurposing some of this housing stock, an official urban renewal program rather than adding staffing or trucks or programs focused on this kind of thing, could be transformative for the city. And so, if we are lucky enough to prevail on that legislative battle, then we'll be bringing back some of those ideas, and they'll be targeted at things like this, as well as commercial properties that we all are way too familiar with, but it'd be really nice to have some tools to do something about it. Thank you, Mike.
You bet.
Thank you. Good work. Okay, that concludes the business section of tonight's meeting. We're going to go backwards to a proclamation for the Human Trafficking Awareness Month. I'll ask Melissa to come up and I'll read the proclamation and then we'll let her say a few words. Whereas human trafficking is a borderless crime against individuals that violates the most basic human rights and deprives victims of every shred of personal freedom, and whereas human trafficking occurs when a person is recruited, harbored, obtained, or exported through force, fraud, or for sexual or labor exploitation, involuntary servitude, and other types of mental and physical abuse, and whereas human traffickers target impoverished and marginalized children, women, and men, isolating them from society and supportive networks and exploiting them for personal and monetary gain. And whereas the United Nations International Labor Organization has estimated that at least 21 million adults and children worldwide are currently in forced labor, bonded labor, and forced prostitution. It is estimated that more people are now harmed by human trafficking worldwide than have been at any other point in human history. Approximately 80% of the victims are women and girls, and 50% are younger than the age of 18. And whereas the City of Hot Springs and Garland County recognize that Arkansas is not exempt from the reality and dangers of human trafficking, having Interstate 40, which is the main corridor for trafficking through the state of Arkansas. And whereas the City of Hot Springs and Garland County commends the work of the Human Trafficking Task Force of Garland County for its efforts to end human trafficking through education, advocacy, and assistance to survivors, and to increase coordination and visibility of Arkansas's commitment to end human trafficking. Now, therefore, I, Ruth Carney, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim January 2017 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month in Hot Springs, Arkansas. To raise awareness about the signs and consequences of human trafficking and to promote opposition to human trafficking in all of its forms and to encourage support for the survivors of human trafficking throughout the state of Arkansas. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed on the 17th day of January in the year of our Lord 2016. Ruth Carney, Mayor. And may I say this before I go and give this to Melissa? I want to thank our police force.
Yes.
I want to thank the Sheriff's Department. They have sent our men and women for training to programs in Little Rock on trafficking. They have been educated. They are allowing us to go into the jail system. We have human trafficking in Hot Springs, Arkansas. If any of you are interested in that, we meet once a month on Tuesday at 1 o'clock right here in this room. And we have our prosecuting attorney, the Sheriff's Department. We have a lot of organizations involved in this. And it's actually proving to work. And the educational process has been huge. And I want to thank Melissa for all that she does and for nonprofit, totally, no salary whatsoever. Thank you, Melissa Glenn.
Do I get to say something?
Yeah.
With all, there's not all here, but there's some of us here tonight that are on the task force. Would you come forward and get a picture made? We'll put it in the paper. Yes, come on.
Yeah.
We do have a large group that didn't show up. Okay, sorry. I'm okay. Okay. Yeah. Here, let me hand it to you this way. Okay, here we go.
She was at a regard speaker last night. She's a priest.
Okay, and would you explain it? Yes, please give us just a 3-minute overview.
Or the 3 second. Yeah, we're so thankful for this, just awareness and attention to this. The reality is that human trafficking isn't just, although it does include the things that we see on the movies and take in and the things that happen in other countries. But like Chief Jason has seen and like we've seen, it actually includes things as simple as a 31-year-old being trafficked to Hot Springs a couple months ago. She was being sold on Backpage here in Hot Springs. It includes a 13-year-old 3 years ago who was being prostituted by her mom and she was going to our public school. It includes the 30-year-old who was lied and lured to come over to the United States and to Arkansas. She was from South America and she didn't know a word of English. And so these are just like 3 simple examples that have happened in the last 6 months and to the last 3 years. And this is a reality that's happening. Now, we're not the number one, fastest growing place for human trafficking, but without the awareness and the education that has been provided by this task force, through the leadership of our mayor, through the unity of stakeholders like our law enforcement, the churches, different communities, stakeholders, these 3 people have all been identified and all have been helped. Where before that, I know that they would have just been missed and they wouldn't have been identified. And so even though we have a heart to do it, we have to have education and awareness. And so we're so thankful for that. We're so thankful for the community that's responding. We have 2 great events this month. We have an event next Sunday at 3 p.m. If you're interested in learning more about it, it's In Plain Sight. It's a documentary that talks about the United States, and it picks out 6 cities, and one of them is Little Rock, Arkansas. So our state is in this documentary that was a nationwide film. It's excellent. It's at Lake Point at 3 p.m., and it's free to the public. We do recommend no one under the age of 13. And the second event is at St. Luke's Episcopal Church. It's going to be a panel discussion on healing and survivors, that what are their next steps, what happens after that. And so we're pleased. We know we have a lot more work ahead of us, but just looking back at where we're at and knowing the help that we've had in this community from this city has been very encouraging. So we just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay, are there any comments from our board members? Okay, we'll go this way. Mr. Williams.
Okay, just a few observations. Did any of you see the news story about the problem they're having in downtown Pine Bluff with abandoned buildings burned? Yes. And they had a major building burn. It's still there. It's actually blocking a city street.
Main Street.
having the detour around it. One of the buildings next to it is in danger from the building. And I couldn't help but want to pick up the phone and call them and tell them what I thought we ought to do. But this board is often criticized, but I don't think anybody should offer any criticism of this board about what we did with the Majestic, where we cleaned up that site, condemned the property, cleaned it up, and now we have a promising site for development. But I couldn't help think of that when I saw that, because it is actually affecting businesses in downtown Pine Bluff. Mm-hmm. The other thing is a personal observation. I was in Subway Sunday night, and the lady that was next to me getting her orders looked at me and she says, "You look familiar to me." I said, "Where do I know you?" I said, "Oh, you're on the city board. I watch you on TV all the time." And she says, "Is my cable bill going up?" And I said, "No. Now the franchise tax is going up." She says, "Oh, yeah, I remember. You were the one that night that had your bill where you had calculated how much it was going to cost us." I said, "Yeah, it's going up to 5%, the same thing the county charges." But if y'all may have observed, oftentimes I like to make a point of demonstrating how decisions that we make, how they impact people out in the community. And so this just goes to show that people do pay attention to these programs that are, these board meetings that are televised. And I am intentional when I do make these personal points to always say that, at the end of the day, at these decisions, there are real people that are affected by the decisions that we make.
For sure. Mr. Foley.
Madam Mayor, I have two things. I noticed that, unless I didn't see him, Chief Stacey was not in the audience when there was a shout-out by the city manager for the award that you received. Mm-hmm. I, too, want to say congratulations. That award was not just for a single event. It is an acknowledgement of your life of service and how you deal with people, and I can't imagine a higher award for you. You certainly deserve it. The second thing I would like to say is that at the Municipal League conference, we were encouraged to not get into the details of angst. I guess I use that word too much. Angst when you make a decision and there is always a contrarian view to it, and it bothers you, and that we should begin to focus on why we are directors in the first place. We're directors, from my point of view, to try to better the community. And one of the issues that I have focused on this past year has been law enforcement. I'm concerned of the crime on property, and I've come to realize that the police department, the police and the sheriffs cannot, they can stop the crime, but they can't anticipate crime, but neighbors can. And so I want to do a shout out for two people. One is Melinda Shunk from Eastgate 2, who set up a Facebook page, has about 118 members already. And it is very interesting to see what goes on in your own neighborhood. It's as simple from lost dogs to pictures of people that seem to be prowling around the neighborhood. And the nice part of this is they have brought in the police department to at least voyeur the site to see if there's anything going on in these neighborhoods. Another one is Rod and Christy Rogers from the Cedarwood Estates. They've also set up a page. So in my district, I identified about 20 neighborhoods, and my goal was going to be to try to get all 20 neighborhoods with some kind of neighborhood watch for their community. I think it improves our safety. It helps the police department. And so to these residents, I just want to say thank you.
Great job. Okay. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
Following up on what Director Foley has just said, we had the Park Avenue Community Association meeting last night, and I mentioned about, I'm sorry that Mr. Carnahan has gone, but about this project that he was doing, and it's about the UV light, that's going to be used for. it's going to assist in the removal of chlorine from our water. And we had a lot of positive comments about that. And I told them that how many times since I've been on the board, but it's ramped up this last year more than any other time, is the amount of nice comments I get from people in the community and other board members who say, wow, things are going on in Park Avenue. And it really is. So get ready for the next round of CDBG applications, because we've got to go a little more. We're working real hard with the highway department about that curve across there by Family Dollar. The Moores have just had the third telephone pole replaced in less than 2 years, I think. I've forgotten how much, because they're coming up that highway so fast they can't make that curve. And we're just lucky nobody has been killed, because I heard about one Jeep that jumped the curb and was going so fast and did a 180-degree spin in the street. And so we're going to be working on that. But at the same time, this PACA would like to hear from this city manager at some point. So you're going to be getting a call. They want to have Mr. Carnahan come back, because he's been very active in what's going on in Park Avenue, and also Chief Stacey. We really appreciate the ramped up appearance of the street, of the police cars and so on, and we're very happy that our crime rate is among the lowest in the city. Is that correct? We're very pleased compared to 10 or 15 years ago. So don't talk about Park Avenue being bad anymore. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other announcements or comments? Okay. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move, Mayor.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Any public comments?
No, there weren't.